Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome to Rediscovering Me TV. It's your girl, Nakia P. Evans. Listen, I'm super excited about tonight. If you've been seeing the flyers, you already know that it's going down. So, listen, guys, while we're having this discussion, I do ask, and you know how I am, that we be respectful, okay? There will be no disrespect on this live. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and boot you and tell you about yourself, and we're going to go ahead and continue to have a great little evening. Okay. But listen, no disrespect. All right. So, those of you who know that I'm a PK. Okay. I've been born and raised into the church. I've been into the church majority of my life, like literally majority of my life. And I've recently started my new journey. But one thing that really got to me was the fear of actually walking away. You understand, the fear of actually walking into something else, and also the knowledge of learning who I am, who I truly am. You understand what I'm saying? So tonight we're going to talk about life after Christianity. And again, there will be no disrespect. If it's not for you, keep on scrolling. Okay, keep on moving. All right. If this is not for you, keep moving. But if you're here for a reason, and we're going to have an awesome time on tonight. All right. So, with me tonight, guys, I have a very wonderful, beautiful queen with us tonight. And let me tell you something. I started watching her on TikTok, and I just really connected with her. I connected with what she was saying. I connected with her teachings and her vibe, her energy. And I couldn't get enough of it. Okay. I made sure that I was checking in the mornings on her live, making sure I'm checking in the evenings, hitting that live. I didn't care what was going on. Everything had to shut down. I needed to listen. I needed to learn. And I'm super excited to have her tonight on my show. So we're going to go ahead and bring her on. Tonight, I have with me Vanessa R. Brooks. I'm going to let her come on and introduce herself and let you know who she is. And we're going to talk about life after Christianity. Hello, Queen. How are you?
Hello, Queen. I am wonderful. How are you tonight?
I am great. I am honored to have you here. I'm super excited about what we're talking about tonight.
Me too. It's my favorite thing to talk about. You know that though by
Oh,
now.
yes. Oh, yes. That I do. So please go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, my name is Vanessa R. Brooks. Obviously, I am a wife. I'm a mom, a grandmom. I'm a fur baby mama. I gotta put that in there. Um, and so I'm on a journey. I'm on a spiritual journey, and those who know my story know that I was a Christian pastor and a Christian apostle for many, many years. And then recently, a few years ago, after much contemplation, much thinking and prayer, I made the decision to close our church, retire from ministry, and I went home. I'm also a professional counselor. I hold a master's degree in pastoral counseling therapy, and I'm a first year doctoral student working on my doctoral degree in mental health. So that's who I am. I left Christianity shortly after leaving the church, and we'll get into that about why as we go into the night. But that's who I am in a nutshell. As you already know by now, I'm very outspoken.
Yes.
People are either going to really, really, really love me and vibe with me, or they're going to really want to not be so nice to me because I'm outspoken, but it's from my heart. It's passion, and so I talk a lot about my journey um, out of Christianity. I talk a lot about my experiences, and I talk a lot about spirituality. And hence, you know me from TikTok. And that's why my page is called Life After Church, because that's exactly what I'm talking about, the good, the bad, and the ugly of my life in the church, Christianity.
Absolutely. I love it. And what I love is that these are conversations that need to be had. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? These are
Mm-hmm.
conversations that You know, a lot of us, we don't get answers. A lot of us are questioning, and I can just raise my hand and say that, I struggled in church, even though being raised in church, being in church, serving in church, not to your capacity, not that capacity. But I still always questioned. I still always felt out of place. And I never understood why. Now, I know like the big question for you by watching your lives and seeing everybody wants to know, why did you close your church and why did you walk away from Christianity?
That's the question of the day.
That is.
So I tell people that I closed the church and I left Christianity for two different reasons. Okay. So I closed our church in 2019. And when I closed the church at that time, I would have still considered myself a Christian on some level, right? But I started to have a lot of questions the last 3 years of being in ministry. I closed the church because of a lot of, oh Lord, you've been in church, so you know, just a lot of mental, emotional, and spiritual drainage. I
Yeah.
was completely bankrupt. I had nothing else to give the people. I felt like church was just this circus. I hate to put it that way, but that's what it felt like. It felt very toxic to me. It felt very dysfunctional to me. It felt like people were treating me as if I was God.
Mm.
And I wanted so desperately for people to know what I believed at that time to be God. But
Right.
it seemed like people just were so traumatized and so wounded and so unsure of their own salvation
Mhm.
that we never really enjoyed church. There was always drama, always confusion, always malice, and so I literally just was burnt out and exhausted and fatigued. And when the doctor said to me, Vanessa, your blood pressure is stroke level high, the stress that you're under is going to kill you,
Mhm.
I had to make a decision. So that's why I closed the church.
Okay.
Now, when I went home and no longer had to go to church anymore,
Mhm.
I had something I hadn't had in a very long time, and that was time.
Right.
I had time to really sit with my beliefs. I started finding people online, pastors who had left not only church but Christianity, and they were saying things that was shocking to me at first, but spiked my curiosity at the same time. Like you, and like probably all Christians who are honest, I had lots of questions, but I had suppressed those questions for decades.
Right.
Right. So now all of a sudden I'm at the house and I don't have to go to church. I'm not a pastor. I don't have members. I don't have to worry about trying to be the woman of God. I can just be myself. So I started researching. I went down the rabbit hole.
Mhm.
I started looking at the history of Christianity. How did we become Christians in America? I wanted to know where it came from. I found out that it was through colonization. I'm not going to get into all the ins and outs of that. And I think I knew that somewhere in the back of my brain, but I didn't make the connection to the oppressiveness of it.
Right.
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 I started to realize that my ancestors who were brought over here and enslaved and taken out of their native land were not practicing Christians. They were practicing a very different spirituality. The natives and the indigenous people who were already on the land of America before European colonization were not practicing Christianity.
Mhm.
They had no concept of the Christian doctrine. So I looked at all of that. And then I was reminded of something that I always knew, and I always preached it when I was in the church.
Mhm.
I was reminded that the Bible was not written to me. Oh my God.
Mhm.
Nor was it written about me,
Right.
nor was it for me.
Mhm.
I was invading on the privacy of a Jewish culture many, many centuries before me. Um, then I started looking at the Bible characters, and we don't have archaeological evidence for most of the stuff in the Bible.
No.
I started doing a big research on the word hell. I mean, I was looking at scholars,
Mhm.
not just YouTube and stuff. I was looking at scholarly research about this word hell. And I realized there was no such place. So for me, once I deconstructed from that, then
Mhm.
all the other questions came.
Right.
Well, if there is no hell, then what is salvation all about? Why would I need to be saved if there's no hell that I'm going to go to? So it was a rabbit hole, and it never stopped. So I even deconstructed from my faith in believing that I needed Jesus to be my savior,
Mhm.
because we're talking about the basic tenets of Christianity.
Right.
The basic
Right.
theology of Christianity is that we are sinners,
Mhm.
that we are separated from God because of our sin, that God doesn't want to be in our presence,
Mhm.
that we need a mediator to stand in the gap for us,
Mhm.
and that Jesus was that mediator, that Jesus was crucified, bled for 3 days, hung on a cross for 3 days, and that his death is somehow the payment now for my sin that I didn't even know I had committed before I even got here.
Right.
And so one deconstruction led to the deconstruction of all the other doctrines.
Mhm.
And I ended up with no belief in Christianity anymore.
Mhm. Mhm. And you said something. You said those that are honest, because a lot of times I'm sorry, we have questions.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we have questions, and I'm quite sure some that are still in Christianity, some that are still in religion, still have questions. And I think that a lot of times we don't ask these questions
Mm-hmm.
simply based out of fear, because we're taught you're not supposed to question God. And that was one thing that I just couldn't stand. And I joke with my friends and I say, I was like the little rebel back in the day, because I always asked questions. I always went to pastors and be like, explain this, because this just don't sound right. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make sense. And once you start researching and once you go down that rabbit hole, there's absolutely no turning back.
Nope.
No turning
Once you
back.
see it, you cannot unsee it.
That's true.
And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And so um, at that point, I had to, I don't know if you've ever heard this term, the dark night of the soul, but I went through that because we're taught that this belief system is the one that's right,
Right.
that all the other religions and all the other belief systems, all the other paths are wrong. So the scripture even says that there's, wide and broad is the road that leads to destruction. Straight and narrow is the road. So I'm sitting here like, okay, what am I supposed to do with all of this? So the problem for me was, if I don't believe this, then what do I believe? What's true? What's real?
Mhm.
So I went through a process of just mentally having to deconstruct all of those layers and try to come to some understanding of what it is I did believe. So for a few months, I just kind of discounted all notions of God. I was like, okay, so there's no God, because Christianity teaches you so deeply that
Yes.
Jesus is God.
Yes.
And I had that in my brain.
Mhm.
It was embedded in my brain. So if I don't believe that, then I had to conclude that there is no God. So for a few months, I was in this sort of dark space because I didn't want to be an atheist. That didn't feel right to me.
Right.
That didn't feel good to my soul,
Mhm.
because that meant that everything I did in church was just fake. And I'm not a fake person.
That's
I
right.
don't fake.
That's right.
So the beauty in this process for me has been um, understanding, what I call secrets, which they're really not secrets, but they're secrets because we're not taught.
Mm-hmm.
So the beauty in this journey has been having an opportunity to just become a child again and discover for myself the essence of what God is to me. Now, you already know, if you heard me on TikTok, you already know I really don't even like that word. And I
Mm-hmm.
got my reasons why I don't.
Right, right,
But
right.
we can get into that if you want to. But, for anybody that's going through this process, what we call deconstruction, I do want to caution people to put on your seatbelt
Mhm.
and drive really slow, because there's a lot of curves and turns and nooks and crannies. And if you're not careful, you will end up in a very dark space.
Mhm.
So one of the reasons I created the religious trauma recovery course is because when I came into this space, it was wild. It's wild out here in these deconstruction streets.
Yes.
It's wild. Everybody has something to say.
Mhm.
Everybody has a path that they want you to be on. Um, and I didn't want to be one of these people who just was harping on the fact that, oh, the Bible isn't this and the Christianity isn't this. I wanted to bring solutions to this community. I
Mhm.
wanted to bring healing, and I wanted to heal the traumas that we were experiencing. I wanted people to not be afraid and fearful, because that's the biggest problem with this process. The
Right.
fear,
Fear. That's it.
the
Yeah.
fear
Mhm.
of, am I going to go to hell? Is God going to punish me? Is my life going to fall apart? I've had people on TikTok say some of the craziest, most hateful and heinous things to me. When you take your last breath tonight, that's going to be it for you. And you're going to wake up and see that you're in hell. And so this is the kind of fear mongering
Mhm.
that Christianity has created among the human collective. And this is why I'm speaking out, because when you're in it, at least for me, because I was so deeply in it, I
Right.
couldn't see how damaging the
Mhm.
doctrine was.
Right.
I couldn't see how damaging um, the process of even becoming a Christian was, because you have to eliminate your own divinity. You
Mhm.
have to deny yourself.
Yes.
You're taught that. You're taught that you are a sinner, for God's sake. You're taught that you're unworthy.
Mhm.
So when you think about religion, Nakia, it's not just about whether we go to church or not. This spills over into every fiber of our being.
Right.
Our relationships are going to be affected by this, okay? Because we're
Mhm.
not only taught to see ourselves as sinners, we're taught to see everybody else as a sinner. So now you're
Yeah.
entering into relationships with people. You're taught, um, certain characteristics are sinful. So you're
Mhm.
not even able to engage with people in relationships because you're seeing everybody as flawed,
Yeah.
right? It spills over into our financial well-being because we're taught not to love money, not to desire wealth, and we're taught all these things. So many of us, I know I did, we have a poverty mentality because
Mhm.
we're taught that.
Right.
So it just affects our sexuality.
Mhm.
you know
Mhm.
there's people who are waddling in shame and guilt and fear because they're not able to be free with their sexual gender, their sexual orientation, their
Right.
sexual nature. It's just a lot. It affects every area of our life.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's been about self-discovery, shadow work, you
Yes.
know, uh,
Yes.
healing the trauma,
Mhm.
being a pastor myself. I have a double layer of trauma because I have to deal with the trauma of, okay, what exactly was I preaching? Was my preaching harmful to people? So I'm still working through that deep layer of trauma.
Mhm.
So this is why I speak out, Nakia, because so many people are hurting
Yes.
and they don't all have the boldness that you and I have to do a live platform and discuss it.
Mhm.
But I can't tell you how many people email me every single day saying, Vanessa, thank you for speaking out. Thank you for talking about this. It's killing people, y'all.
Yes.
It's killing people mentally, it's killing people emotionally, it's killing people spiritually, and it's
Mhm.
killing people physically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The fear of all of it is just to the extreme. I remember every night, like before going to bed, like it was a process, I'm
Wow.
praying and repenting and going because the fear of going to hell was
Yep.
just so unbearable. Religion has made me look at people who has done nothing to me and judge them based off of who they are and
See?
how they choose to live their own personal lives.
Yep.
And it just did not sit well. It just didn't, because I could not understand, how do we continue to live like this? How do we continue to treat people like this and still have a mentality that we just going to heaven? That God is going to let us in to them pearly gates, and we just going to go to heaven and everything is going to be fine,
Yep.
because we feel like we have to be that way to people because that's what we're taught.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's
And
just
and the psychosis of that is we'll be in heaven, but some of our loved ones may not be.
mm,
And everybody's going to be okay with that. You know, and this is going to sound very blasphemous to people who don't understand, who are not on this journey.
mm,
But I did the thing that we're told not to do, and I did begin to question God, at least the God of the Bible.
right.
Now I have a new definition for God. I have a new understanding of what God is to me.
Yeah.
But the God that I was associated with, I had to sever that relationship, and that was hard. Like I had to physically do um, a almost a ceremony, if you will,
Mhm.
to cut those cords, to break that agreement that I had made with this God, because I if God is who we say God is biblical God, I expect more of him.
Yes.
I expect him to show a level of compassion and empathy and forgiveness
Mhm.
that I don't have the capacity to show.
Mhm.
But if God can't extend grace and mercy and forgiveness and love and restoration and healing to all people with no threat of eternal torment,
Mhm.
I don't know that that's the God that I want to be in relationship with.
Exactly.
And that's the decision that I had to make. And I
Mhm.
could not see that before because I had the blinders on my eyes, the indoctrination. Keep trying to
That's
tell
it.
people we've been indoctrinated. I told them
Yes.
today on TikTok, look that word up and give me the definition. To be taught a set of beliefs without critical thinking.
Mm.
So we believed without thinking. That's
Right.
very dangerous.
Very.
That's what we did.
And we're afraid to think. We are afraid
Yes.
to even try or even do the simple thing of going to Google and just searching something up. We are absolutely afraid because we fear that that's an absolute rejection
Yep.
to this biblical God. We feel like we're just gonna just be tormented in hell.
Yep.
And it's sad that we even have to go through this process.
It
Now, I
really
can't say
is.
that I've been on my process for a long time. I've always questioned, but now it like recently it has been like a major shift because I had to actually go back and look and be like, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. I can't continue. How am I supposed to love people? How do you command me to love others? Yet you're just willing to torment other people for simply being themselves,
Well,
or for simply just not believing in you, something that you created. It just never made sense to me.
it doesn't make sense. And that's what critical thinking does.
Mhm.
And that is why so many people are are still stuck like you and I were,
Mhm.
because they're not thinking critical. Thinking critically means asking those difficult questions. And just by asking a question alone, I just want people to hear this. When you start asking questions, and I tell the people on TikTok all the time, get a sheet of paper, draw a line down the middle. On the left side of the paper, write all the questions that you want to ask God.
Mhm.
Just keep writing. And then ask those questions out loud. And on the right side of the column, write down the answer using logic and reasoning and common sense.
Mhm.
Okay. And when you do that, there's an unfolding happens. Things begin to unfold within you. And that's what happened to me. And
Mhm.
even though I thought I was this loving, kind apostle, pastor, and I was, but it was based on condition, though.
Mhm.
I was doing that because I was trying to keep the commandments of Jesus.
Right.
And I asked myself, but Vanessa, can you forgive people just because it's in your heart to do it? Can you love people just because it's in your heart to love people? Can you be kind to people just because you're innately a kind person? So I
Right.
went on a journey to find out, can I do these things on my own? And guess what? I can.
Mhm.
I can. And it's sad that we've been conditioned to believe that we have to have a book of rules and religions to tell us how to behave on the planet. Now, here's the part that a lot of people don't want to hear. This is what I saw time and time again when I was in church pastoring.
Mhm.
I'm going to say this as gently as I know how to say it.
Okay.
It is my theory.
Mhm.
It is my theory that most of the people in the church are not really there because they love God. What? Did she just say that?
Mm. Mm.
What?
Mm.
We are there
Wow.
because we are afraid of what will happen to us
Yeah.
if we're not there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the God that we love is a God based on our own personal preferences. Now, y'all know this is true. We
Yes.
all create God in our own image.
Mhm.
This is why when you go to church, you hear all these different prophecies from all these different people saying God said all these different things. Why can't God say one solid thing? You know why? Because we are the ones that are creating our own versions of God.
Right.
Vanessa Brooks, you better stop.
Right. Right. Go ahead.
Okay. And it's
Go ahead.
creating chaos and confusion and dysfunction.
Mhm.
I preached in hundreds of churches over the last 20 years. And if I saw it once, I saw it 100 times, right? Different variations of God
Mhm.
based on the vision of the man of God for
Mm.
the house,
Wow.
based on the vision of the woman of God for the house.
Mhm.
Okay. There
Mhm.
was no single solitary way that we as Christians worship God or believe in God.
Oh.
Okay. You got
Mhm.
44, I almost cussed. I can't cuss on the podcast. We got 40, we got, we we got 44,000. I need somebody to hear me.
Come on.
We got 44,000 Christian denominations.
Mhm.
And then within those denominations, you still got churches doing something completely different
Different.
within that denomination anyway.
Right.
So you could be Methodist, that could be
Mhm.
your choice, your denomination of choice, but you could go to 100 different Methodist churches and they're still going to do things differently.
That's right.
All right. So at some point, for me, I just got so completely exhausted
Mhm.
with trying to figure out which God, which God we serving, y'all.
Mhm.
All right. When you look at the Bible, this book is 66 books
Mhm.
written by, I don't know, 44 authors, all men, by the way,
All
no
men.
women, no
Right.
women.
Right.
All right. Jewish men,
Mhm.
not trying to slight the Jewish community. I'm just stating facts.
Right.
These are ancient Jewish writers, male writers, all right, writing about their Jewish God,
Mhm.
Yahweh. Has
Right.
nothing to do with me.
Mhm.
And then here we come because the white man decided to invade America
Mhm.
because they were having fallouts in Europe about their religion. So they decided to invade America and bring that. Mm, bring that sweet little religion over here to us,
Mhm.
right? And
Right.
bring that energy of confusion into America.
Mhm.
And it has spilled over into every aspect of our life. We got people right now, Nakia, that I'm gonna get in so much trouble. Oh my God.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We
It's
got
okay.
people right now that will choose to side with Jesus. And I'm
Mhm.
guilty because I've done it before too. They
Right.
will choose to side with Jesus, someone that they've never met, never seen, don't personally know, but they'll
Mhm.
side with Jesus over me and you because they
Mhm.
are afraid of going to hell.
Yes. Yes.
And here's the conclusion that I had to reach back in 2020. When COVID hit, we all had an opportunity to just sit with ourselves.
Mhm.
It started early for me. I started in 2019 when I closed the church. And I had to say something to myself that was so hard for me to say and hear. There's only three ways that I knew Jesus, and there's only three ways that anybody knows Jesus. We
Mhm.
know Jesus through what people have said to us about Jesus,
Mhm.
whether that's family, friends, church members, whoever. We
Right.
know about Jesus based on what we read about in the Gospels,
Mhm.
and we know about Jesus based on the experiences that we create in our own minds and imaginations. That's it.
That's it. That's it.
But people will throw me and you in hell
Mhm.
and choose the side of Jesus because they're afraid. The other piece that I realized, wait a minute. And now me and Jesus are finally cool. Me and
Mhm.
Jesus finally made up.
Mhm.
I needed a break from Jesus though, because
Mhm.
I was confused and I was hurt.
Right.
Jesus never said he was God in the Bible.
That's
They
right.
get mad when I say that. Oh,
That's right.
they be wanting to
That's right.
stone me. Matthew, Mark, Luke are the most reliable sources of Jesus's life that we have. And that
Mhm.
ain't very reliable because they wrote those gospels 70 years after Jesus died. But
Afterwards.
I
Right.
digress. I
Mhm.
digress, child.
Mhm.
But let's just go with it. Let's just say that
Right.
they're authentic, accurate manuscripts. Nowhere in those three gospels does Jesus ever refer to himself as God.
Right.
Nowhere.
Right.
He's having a conversation with the disciples and he's wanting to know, like, what are people saying about me? And the
Mhm.
disciples are saying, well, some people think that you're Elias and some people think that you're Moses. He says to the disciples, who do you think I am? Peter says, I think it's Peter who says, I said that you are Jesus, the son of the living God.
Mhm.
Jesus had an opportunity to correct Peter right there.
Right.
He says to Peter, flesh and blood did not reveal that to you.
Mhm.
Nowhere does the Bible say Jesus is God. In the book of John, there's maybe two or three implications that Jesus may be of a divine nature, but
Right.
it doesn't say that he's God.
Right.
So I started to realize all of that, all these downloads are just coming to me,
Mhm.
in 2019. I'm like, oh my God. So Nakia, this is what happens when we talk about life after Christianity. You start, you start to use your mind.
Yes.
You
Yes.
start to think. And yes, it's scary as hell when you first began the journey. But the more you use contemplative thought,
Mhm.
the more you began to do the research,
Mhm.
the easier this journey gets for us.
Absolutely.
The easier
Absolutely.
it gets for us.
Yes. Yes. And what I love is that, you know, for me, when I started this journey, when I started asking more questions and kind of cut off the community that I was surrounded around at that time, because that community was Christian. And so I had to like take myself out of that and start going around people who were thinking the exact same way that I was thinking, that was
That's right.
asking the same questions that I was asking. And I was able to start having conversations that made sense.
That made
And I was
sense.
able to relate to, and I was like, this is crazy. Like this is so amazing because with that, and yes, there's fear. Yes, we're gonna have those up and down, the doubts, the thoughts, all of that. But the peace that comes with it, knowing that I don't have to sit and torture myself thinking that I'm just going to die and go to hell every day. And understanding that the things in my life, and this is when you mentioned shadow work, the things in my life that was happening wasn't based off of some demon that was happening, but it was just me. And we don't like to face that either. And yes, the journey is tough. Like, it's a tough journey. Deconstructing, looking at yourself, facing yourself, all of that is tough. But the peace that comes with it,
Priceless.
nothing can take. I'm telling you, nothing can take that away. And when you finally feel awakened, when you finally feel like you are starting to understand a little bit more, everything just connects. The way that you can connect with nature, the way that you can. I feel like when I'm walking in the mornings, my walks are totally different now,
Yeah.
because now it's like I can see the trees more than I can, better than I can see it before. It's a totally different piece.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people, they're not gonna question. And I get that. It doesn't matter how much we talk. There's just some that's not gonna question. There's some that's
Right.
just not going to open up. But for those that do, I'm happy for you. When you start the process, I'm happy for you. And Vanessa, I'm happy that you came up on my page. Like, I really am. I really am, because I've been telling friends about you. Like, they couldn't get me to shut up about you, because I was like, oh my goodness, like, she's talking the stuff that I've been thinking. She's saying these things, and not just saying it, but baby, you was able to pull them receipts. And I was like, that's what I like. The research and all of that, because it's so important. It
Yep.
is so important.
It is. It
It
is.
really.
I remember the day that I heard. So I made a TikTok account last year, just playing around with it. I kind of got on TikTok, didn't really like it because people was just on there doing little booty dances and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is for babies. This is for little kids. Let me get off of this thing. So I put a couple of videos up, but nothing really serious. So I remember the day 2 months ago, and I heard Spirit say to me, I need you on TikTok and I need you sharing your journey about your life after church. And I was like, oh, hell no. Because Nakia, things are quiet on Facebook now, but I went through so much attack on Facebook with my journey. And I was like, oh, no, we're not going to do that. But I heard it again. I need you to go to TikTok. And I remember the first video that I posted on TikTok a couple months ago. And the response, of course, there was some trolls. Of course, there was some backlash. But hundreds and then thousands of people viewing my videos and saying, oh my God, somebody's finally speaking out. Because to be quite honest, what I have noticed on this journey, there's not a lot of Black women, especially Black women who are in senior leadership like me, who are on this path. And if they are on this path, a lot of Black women are afraid to speak out. And so it's becoming obvious to me, and I'm not saying this in a braggadocious way, but part of my job now is to be the forerunner in this movement, to show people what life looks like when you leave Christianity, for those that want to leave. And if you want to stay, I say stay.
Right.
Because I stayed for 30 years. And so I would never tell a person to leave if that's not their journey. But for those who feel like it no longer serves them, I want to be a safe space for people to say, look, y'all, do I look like I'm demon possessed? Does it look like I'm losing my mind? Does it look like my life is falling apart? I need to be that Harriet Tubman to create this underground railroad, if you will, and give people this passage to freedom. Because that's something that I did not see when I was on this path in the early days. People wanted to go straight from Christianity into like New Age stuff, or straight from Christianity into another religion or another spiritual path. And I was like, but wait a minute, I don't want to do that. I want to talk about my life
Mm-hmm.
within Christianity too. I want to talk about the things that Christianity has done, the things that it teaches, and how damaging it is. I couldn't find that community. So Spirit was like, you're going to create that community. And then I found Dr. Marlene Wynell. So I want to offer that as a resource to anybody that's interested, in addition to the work that I do. But she started talking about religious trauma syndrome. Had never heard that before, but I promise y'all, you're going to be hearing that term a lot as soon as it becomes a code in the DSM. And it was at that moment that I realized, wow, I'm dealing with that on so many levels. And so many of us are dealing with it, but we don't know. Right. So like you said, what we try to call demons, and let's cast this demon out. No, that's an aspect of you.
That's right.
That you haven't dealt with. You've repressed certain aspects of yourself because Christianity makes us so ashamed of those dark aspects of us. So we try to tuck it away, or we try to cast it out. When you're on the spiritual journey, part of this process is not just leaving Christianity, but it's finding yourself. Oh my God.
Yes.
It's doing that self-discovery work. That's what this is about. It's about healing the inner child wounds. It's about healing the teenager wounds. It's about coming into age, if you will.
Yes.
And all the things that you didn't love about yourself, and all the things that people shamed you about. Those are the areas that you now have the freedom to look at and explore. People have always tried to shame me because I've always been outspoken. People always wanted to silence me. Why don't you just be quiet? So now that I'm free, I realize my outspokenness is my superpower.
Yes.
It's my gift.
Yes.
Right. So it feels good to be able to talk to people who have been oppressed by this belief system and say, you know what? This is not just about leaving Christianity. It's about you having the opportunity now to get to know the most important person in your life, which is you, which is the self.
That's right.
That's what this is about. Because unfortunately, these European doctrines of Christianity were written to deliberately keep us, and not just Black people, anybody that believes in the belief.
That's right.
They're written to keep the human collective oppressed and enslaved. Okay, they want there's a chain of hierarchy within Christianity. If you look at the history of it, it was the early church fathers, the bishops.
They don't want to talk about that.
They don't want to talk about that.
No, they don't.
They don't want to have that conversation.
They don't.
That y'all do know that all of the doctrines of Christianity were created by male bishops, most of which were not of Black ethnicity. A few of them came from Africa. Most of them were not of Black ethnicity. They were but you don't want to talk about that. You don't want to have that conversation. You don't want to look at how the Bible deliberately misogynizes women.
Yes.
You don't want to have that conversation though. Okay? You don't want to talk about how we have been. If I've been called Jezebel once, I've been called Jezebel 1,000 times. Except for when you come into a space of awakening and you go back and you read Jezebel's story and you go, wait a minute. Jezebel was a powerful woman. I don't care what y'all say. Jezebel was a queen. 2 times over, she was a princess and she was a queen. She was royalty, and she had every right to use her authority in her marriage to Ahab. So there has been a deliberate twist, all right, to misogynize women, to call us witches for standing in our power.
Yes.
For standing in our magic.
Yes.
For standing in our ability to heal, to prophesy. They don't want to talk about that. No. They want to twist these stories. No. But I did my homework. And I know that you went into my ancestors' territory, and you stole their information.
Mm-hmm.
You enslaved them, and you put fear in them to shut them down, to silence them, and you rewrote their stories
Mm-hmm.
to fit your narratives. Okay. And I'm no longer interested in playing in that toxic fire anymore.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, I'm speaking out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking out because there are thousands and thousands, and I dare say millions of lives that need to be saved. People are sitting in these churches every single week, confused and terrified, and they are dying on the inside.
Yes.
They're dying on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
They're living lives that are not authentic because they are afraid. And my message is there is absolutely nothing for
Nothing.
us to be afraid of. Yes, we're going to expire out of this physical life one day. We all got to leave here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But any religion that creates a God that would terrify people and leave death lingering over their
Oh,
heads for the rest of their life, that's not
yes.
a loving God, and I'm
No.
sorry.
No.
Any
No.
religion that would create a God that would even think of having a place called hell for anybody,
Mm.
that's not a loving God.
No.
You see, you can't tell me to forgive my offender
Forgive. Mm-hmm.
and you're not willing to forgive. God is not willing to forgive us, y'all, not the God of the Bible.
No. No.
Because if you were a forgiving God, there would be no place that you created called hell. There
Mm-hmm.
just would not be.
Right.
And so I want to free our people. You know, I saw a meme, Nakia, and it was a meme about two little African girls. They were standing behind a prison cell,
Mm-hmm.
but on the other side of the prison cell, it was a wide open space. They could have just walked out, but they were hanging on to the bars.
Mm-hmm.
And the meme said, "This is what happens when you're so enslaved that you can't see that the way of escape is just right beside you." And that's what's happened to so many of our people.
Yes.
The way of escape is right there.
Mm-hmm.
But because we've been so enslaved, we're hanging on to the bars of the prison, and we can't even see right beside us. There's an open door. But if I speak out, if I raise my voice,
Mm-hmm.
if I show people the way out, if I provide an escape route for them, a safe way out, some of those people will release themselves from the prison, and they'll escape. But if I go hide in shame and silence and fear,
That's right.
then nobody knows.
Nobody.
And I could have done that. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people on this journey, they do that because they're so afraid. They're free. They found their freedom. They left Christianity. They left the church. They live in their best lives, and nobody knows their story because they're afraid to speak out. But that's not my journey. That's not what I'm here to do.
Right.
So if I go hide in shame, never share anything, then how are people supposed to know that there's a safe way to leave?
Right. They won't.
I wouldn't have found you. You wouldn't have found me
Right.
if I wasn't brave enough to go to TikTok and say, "Hey, y'all,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm a former Christian pastor. You know how I roll.
Yes.
I close
Yes.
the doors of my church. Welcome to Life After Church. If
Mm-hmm.
this is your first time joining, make sure you try." If I don't do that, I've talked to pastors, Nakia,
Mm.
from TikTok, who are on the verge of suicide
Wow.
because they don't want to do this anymore,
Mm.
but they're afraid. And they say, "Thank you, because just by you talking about it and providing us with the research, you're taking the fear out of me. You're giving me the strength to slowly make my departure."
Mm.
I can't be silent, Nakia,
No. No.
because this could have killed me.
Mm-hmm.
It assisted in killing my mama. She had 3 strokes messing with the church from the stress of it all.
Mm.
And I'm sorry, with no disrespect to anybody's belief, but I need God, that God of the Bible. I need you to do better by us.
Yes.
People
Yes.
should not have to suffer and be afraid and confused and fearful in order to have a relationship with you.
Mhm.
So I'm here to say there's another way. Spirit is what I found, Nakia, on this
Yes.
journey. What I
Yes.
call the divine intelligence,
Mhm.
divine consciousness, this energy of love and,
Mhm.
and creation and creativity. That's what's God. That's what God is to me. In the Kemetic spirituality, they call it nature or netta, nature, the God of nature. They say
Yes.
God is in all. See, our ancestors, they knew. Our
Mhm.
ancestors knew the
Yes.
truth. They
Yes.
knew that spirit was in all things, in everything. Our
Everything.
ancestors knew that there was no separation between us and the creator, the most high.
Mhm.
Our ancestors knew that. They knew that if you used herbs from nature, that that was God.
Mhm.
They knew that if you used crystals from the earth, that that was God.
Mhm.
They understood that the air you breathed was God. They
Yes.
understood that the waters, the rivers, the ocean, that that was God. They
Mhm.
understood that God was not confined to one man,
Mhm.
to one religion.
That's it.
They understood that God was all.
Everything.
When I got that revelation, honey, you couldn't tell Vanessa nothing. You couldn't tell me nothing.
Mhm.
Our ancestors, before they were colonized, they were not begging and pleading to a God outside of them.
Oh.
They prayed within.
Mhm.
They understood the power of energy and sound and vibration. They understood
Yes.
that their words carried a frequency and they
Mhm.
would send their words out into the universe. And they knew that what they desired would come back to them. Oh, our ancestors had so much power. They were
Yes, they
so
did.
spiritual,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that's why I honor them. So
Mhm.
it amazes me when people come at me, you worship, you honoring your ancestors. They did it. No, 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 no. You had me honoring and worshiping something that I can't even prove really existed.
Right.
By faith,
Right.
I could just assume. So
Mhm.
yes, I'm going to venerate my ancestors. I have a space for my ancestors. I have an altar space for them, and I'm not
Mhm.
ashamed of that.
Right.
Okay, because their
Right.
energy is eternal. They are still with us.
Mhm. That's
Okay,
right.
and so these are things that we have allowed the European colonizers to demonize. We've allowed these European religions to make us feel ashamed and guilty about the way that we want to express our love for God.
Mhm.
And I'm saying no, no longer.
No.
I'm saying no
No.
more. You're not going to take my spiritual power another day from me.
That's right.
You're not going to minimize my spirituality.
Mhm.
You're not going to demonize my spirituality. And you're not going to shame my ancestors, not on my watch.
No.
Not on my
No.
watch. You did
No.
that for 400 plus years in this country. For
Mhm.
400 plus years, we've allowed the colonization of the European people to demonize us, manipulate us, insult us,
Mhm.
dehumanize us,
That's right.
enslave us, oppress us. And we need to get our power back
Yes.
as a
Yes.
collective, not to be racist, not to be divisive, because I love all people.
Mhm.
But we as a human collective of melanated people, we need to return to the spirituality that's a part of our heritage.
Yes.
We were the first
Yes.
ones here on the earth.
Yes, we were. Yes, we were. Yes, we were. They're
We,
not
we
ready
were
for
the
that either.
we were the first ones on the earth. We were
That's
the
all
first
right.
ones to know God.
Mhm.
We were the first ones to know how to connect to the all.
That's it.
And unfortunately, we surrendered that power over to our oppressors.
Mhm.
And I can hear our ancestors crying out for redemption. Can y'all are we going to redeem them?
Mhm.
So that's what I'm here to do.
And
That's what
I
we
love
get to
it.
do.
And you're doing it. You are absolutely doing it. You are doing it. Because let me tell you something. I be waiting for that notification to pop up for you to go live. It's like my phone be at the hip. Like I don't, it doesn't matter. And you know, a friend of mine and I, like we just be talking and having these conversations. And it's so amazing to just see things completely differently, and to have that peace, and just to know that it's right here, it's all in me. You know, I don't have to do all that other stuff, all of that fear, none of that. Knowing who I am, that's enough right there, you know, because that's just what we are. And i'm
Yeah.
i'm totally like stoked about it all. Going into this rabbit hole, I get deeper and deeper. I be blowing up my friend's phone and be like, "Did you see this? Did you know this?" Like, because it's so empowering to be around a community of people that are experiencing and going through the same thing, that have the same questions, that also have, you know, survived the same traumas from religion as well. And we're able to talk about that.
Yes.
Everybody don't like it, and that's fine. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to keep talking about it.
That's
We're going
right.
to keep having these conversations. And we're
That's
going
right.
to keep, you know, sharing and empowering people to look within themselves.
That's right.
Look within themselves. I like how you say it. You know, you gotta go to your sky daddy. Just look within yourself.
You ain't got to go to Sky Daddy.
No, you don't.
The power is within you.
That's right.
It's on the inside of us, and it's always been there.
Hmm.
Spirit is we are spirit.
Yes.
And the most amazing thing that I've discovered on this journey is that we are eternal, y'all. Before we had a physical body, we were spirit. Always have been, always will be. And we just need to tap into that energy. We just need to tap into that power. And when you do, once you find it, it's going to connect itself to you, and it's going to open that third eye, and it's going to cause you to see what you couldn't see before, and it's going to change every single thing. I promise people that it will.
Yes.
Once that inner eye, that spiritual eye, that third eye, once it's open and you can see what makes us fearful is not knowing. Oh my God. That's where the
That's it.
fear comes from.
That's it.
Whenever there's an uncertainty, whenever there's an unknowingness, it's
Hmm.
going to activate in the brain. The fear is going to be activated,
Right.
right? There's a part of your brain called the amygdala. That's where fear lives.
Hmm.
But when you began to know, when you begin to clearly see, when you become clairvoyant, oh, did she use that word?
Yes, she
Yes, I
did.
did. Sure
Hmm.
did.
Hmm.
When you become clairvoyant, when you have clear sight, clear is
Clear.
clear.
Hmm.
When you get clear sight and you can see the nature of reality, then it removes the veil of fear away. So this is what we have to keep speaking out and teaching and talking, because once people can clearly begin to see,
Hmm.
then fear has no power.
That's right.
Fear only has power because there's not enough knowing in there, right, to
Hmm.
move it out of the way.
That's right.
And so all we're doing is helping people to awaken that third eye chakra, to get the energy flowing so that you can see beyond the veil of illusion. That's all we have to do. And once we get to that place,
Hmm.
the rest of it is just a journey that you can actually enjoy. See, I don't want to be deconstructing for 3, 5, 10 years and I'm still
Hmm.
afraid and fearful.
Right.
That ain't working for me.
Hmm.
If I got to be on this journey, I need to be on this journey and have joy and
Yes.
peace
Yes.
and love.
Yes.
And when the third eye opens, then that's what happens. You
Hmm.
see.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Now you've built a course. You have a
I
course
do. I
that
do.
you're giving out. Share
I
with
do.
us a little bit more about your course.
It's a free gift.
Mhm.
Uh, it's my way to give back to Christians, because I take responsibility and ownership for the role that I played in all of this as a leader, right? So as I mentioned, I my master's degree is in pastoral counseling, and I got that degree because at the time I had a vision to provide counseling services to pastors and leaders and Christians. I didn't know I was going to end up leaving Christianity in the midst of that process, and
Mhm.
so I created this course as a way to offer a level of professional services to people who maybe can't afford to go to therapy, or maybe who have a stigma about going to therapy, because a lot of Black people, we
Mhm.
have stigma about therapy. So
Right.
it's really kind of like therapy in a course is what I call it.
Okay.
So the first part of the course is I introduce people to religious trauma, because most of us have never heard of it, especially in the Black church.
Right.
So I kind of explain what religious trauma is, and then I explain what trauma is and how trauma affects us physically and
Mhm.
mentally.
Mhm.
There is a trauma healing workbook in the course. So these are professional self-healing modalities that one can use to learn how to treat their trauma.
Okay.
So we can stop effing up our relationships with other people.
Right.
Right. Because
Right.
traumatized people have effed up relationships.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Then we go into what I call a journey of self-discovery, because as Christians, we don't do that.
Mm-mm.
It's very, very minimal in Christianity. So I open people up to self-discovery. There's a self-discovery workbook in there with a lot of journal prompts.
Mhm.
There is a journal attached to that workbook that you work through the prompts, and you journal things every day. There are some uh, trauma healing oracle cards in there. They're digital, that I want people to kind of read every day to help rewire their subconscious mind.
Mhm.
I also provide tools on how to do critical thinking, because we don't know how to do that as
No.
Christians.
No.
They don't teach us that. We're
No.
just so used to believing what we're told and taught.
Mhm.
So I walk people through how the process of critical thinking. There's a small piece on just the basics of the Bible, because I don't think that most Christians even understand their own belief.
Mhm.
So I just kind of introduce them to a little bit of history about the Bible. And then at the end of the course, there is a module on how to have healthy relationships, because I realize that most of us as Christians don't have healthy relationships because we're not taught how to do that. Um, so that's the course in a nutshell. It's free. So if anyone wants the course, all you have to do is send an email to admin@vanessaRbrooks.com, and me or my assistant will send you an enrollment link. It's a digital course. So you enroll in this course and you have lifetime access to it, and you can just take your time. The way I've created it, you can print things out if you prefer, or you can do the digital version and type inside the course itself. It's up to you. Um, I took the course over to TikTok, and TikTok's been blowing it up, and I'm so thankful and excited about it. Um, just to see people actually enrolling and going through the program,
Mhm.
it makes my heart glad, Nakia. It heals me every
Mhm.
single day of some of
Mhm.
my guilt, um, and I pray that the course will be. I pray that the results of the course will be greater than the trauma that we've
Right.
suffered. So
Yes. And listen, guys, I've gotten a course. Okay. I'm
the
going through the
course?
course. Yes,
Did
ma'am.
you get
So
it?
I have the course and I'm going through it, and I'm telling you, this is something that you want to get. If you're starting your journey, you want to get this because this is good. I had to actually sit down and really think. I had to go through the process of, some of them journal prompts. I was like, ooh, like she trying to get me. She trying to get me. But it makes you think. It makes you think. So listen, make sure that you go and send her an email. That's the email right there on the screen. Make sure you send her an email so that you can sign up for this course. Okay. Vanessa, I want to say thank you, love. I want to say thank you so much for just coming and sharing and educating us as well, because you're sharing, but you're also educating us.
Yeah.
So I greatly appreciate that. I appreciate you, Queen, because when I say you have changed my life, you have totally changed my life just by
Wow.
connecting with you on TikTok, listening to your lives, things that you have recommended. I'd be sitting there, doing little screenshots, taking notes, getting some of the books that you have been, recommending. And it has been so eye-opening. And so I just want to say thank you. I'm thankful that you are speaking out, that you're not hiding, and that you are definitely setting a pathway for us. Those of us that are just starting out, this is needed. It's needed, because you're right. There's a lot of us that was in there hurting, dying,
Yeah.
just pitiful,
Yeah.
just pitiful.
Yeah.
And this has been wonderful for me. Like, I keep saying to my friend, I'm like, I know you're getting tired of me because I'm just talking and talking and talking. But every day, these are the conversations that we're having, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So thank you, Queen, for what you're
Well,
doing.
you are very welcome. And thank you for even not only inviting me to this space, but thank you for even sharing how my work is helping and changing you, because that's what I want.
Yes.
Like, I just want to see people set free. Same thing I wanted when I was a preacher. So thank you for saying that and sharing that, because it really does encourage me, Queen. I think when people see me, my demeanor, it's strong. I'm a strong woman. I am, but I'm still human, and I have a heart, and it's some days it gets tough online, dealing with the backlash. But if I can help enough people, then to me it's worth the backlash. And so every time somebody says thank you, y'all just don't know how that gives me strength to do it another day. So
Yes.
thank you for saying thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the comments that we're getting. I love everyone who's, participating. So thank you guys so much. But listen, I'm gonna tell you something. It ain't over. It ain't over. We're ending this show tonight, but it's not over, because listen, tomorrow night we're gonna be on Clubhouse. Okay.
Right.
And we're gonna be talking about from church to spirituality. My friend Yakim is hosting this. So if you've been following, my profile or Vanessa's profile, we have been sharing the flyer. If you've been following Yakim as well, you've seen it. So make sure that tomorrow you join us on Clubhouse as we still continue the conversations, but we're talking about from church to spirituality. And we have some more special guests that's going to come on and share. And this is going to be powerful. So listen, guys, I need y'all to connect. Okay. I need you to follow Vanessa. Make sure you follow her on Facebook. Get on them TikToks. I'm telling you. Get on them TikToks. Okay. Support this queen. Support her. Keep encouraging her. Keep pushing her, because I love what she's doing. I'm telling you, my life has changed. And I'm telling you, if you're ready, nobody's pushing you. Nobody's saying you should. This is your decision. If you are ready, then I'm telling you, connect. Okay. Your life will be changed. So make sure that you do that. Thank you to everyone who's shown up, everyone in the comments. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Vanessa, they're loving you tonight, love. They are loving you. Yes. So I'm absolutely excited. So thank you, guys. Make sure that you share this video. If you have someone that that is, they're in between, they're not sure, or they're wanting to start their journey, make sure that you share this. This video will be going live again tomorrow and the rest of the weekend, because we're going to keep talking about this. We're going to keep sharing it. We're going to spread the word. Okay. And join us tomorrow on Clubhouse as well. All right. So thank you so much, guys. Hi. Thank you. Thank you. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Make sure to connect. Get that course. It's free. Okay. I'm going to post it again. Here it is. That's the name of the course. And this is her email. So make sure that you email her and get that course. You won't regret it. I promise. Okay. I promise. Vanessa, again, thank you so much, love. Thank you. You have no idea. I just greatly appreciate it. And it's just such an honor, because I was totally geeked. When you was like, yes, I was screaming. I was like, oh my gosh, she said yes.
course I'm gonna say yes.
just being able to talk to you and vibe with you, your energy is amazing. I love your vibe. I love what you're putting out. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Love you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, guys. Y'all have an amazing night, and we'll talk later. Have a great one. All right.
Bye.
Bye.